The Great Pyramid of Giza is the only one of the original seven wonders of the ancient world still standing. Although there is great speculation about how it was built and by whom, the pyramid stands as a testament to the skill of those that erected it. For millennia, that pyramid has stood sentinel. It's seen empires rise and fall, countless sunrises and sunsets, and through it all, it has remained resilient. And for good reason. Regardless whether you believe it was built by thousands of slaves or by alien beings from another galaxy, the Great Pyramid of Giza is the blueprint for strong, stable construction. It is broadest and therefore strongest at its base, spreading and carrying the load for the levels above that slowly diminish in size until it reaches its peak, 137 meters above. 4,500 years after it was built, it stands strong to this very day. Despite advances in machinery, methods, and materials, that same principle of strongest at the base still guides modern construction practices. In fact, it actually guides the composition of the industry and the makeup of each individual project. Like the Great Pyramid, our industry is one of many layers, all held together by a keystone. That keystone is often a major company or a tier one contractor. Below them and supporting them are layer upon layer of subcontractors and specialists, each playing their part to ensure that each project remains upright. Even in a relatively small niche like demolition, there are layers of expertise and responsibility. There are those that specialize in asbestos removal, soft strip, temporary works and facade retention, and structural demolition. Like the huge blocks that make up the Great Pyramid, or like the military phalanx of ancient Greece, each layer and each skill is dependent upon those above, beside, and below them. When everything works as it should, the creation of a new building is a strong, stable, and well-rehearsed process. When it doesn't, however, that Great Pyramid more closely resembles a house of cards, frail and prone to collapse, the whole thing at the mercy of its weakest link. In theory, the composition of the construction industry is the ultimate protection against jack of all trades, master of none. Each subcontractor, each specialist, each layer in that industry pyramid brings its own unique set of skills and strengths. In practice, however, things are rather different. And while I don't want to mix my metaphors, one single issue can turn the house of cards into a domino effect, each one toppling the next. At the most simplistic level, this might manifest itself as a delay. One subcontractor or specialist overruns, and that has a knock-on effect on the next specialist in line. It might be only a day or a week, but it can trigger a series of further delays that can seriously jeopardize a project deadline. A demolition contractor has a problem with his high-reach excavator, and the machine is out of action for a few days while a replacement machine or a replacement part is delivered. As a result, the piling contractor is now twiddling his thumbs, unable to begin because there's still a building in the way. Because of issues further up the chain, a steel worker can't take delivery of steel as there's nowhere to store it. By the time the steel is reordered, there could be problems with supply. And if the steel shifts back, so does every other skill that depends upon it. And so it goes on. Yet, in the grand scheme of things, that's merely a hiccup, a tiny fly in an otherwise unspoiled ointment. Where the house of cards begins to tremble, however, is when the issue of finance rears its head. The tier one contractor at the top of the heap is slow in paying one of its subbies. That subby is then unable to pay the specialist below them, who in turn is unable to pay the subby below them. By the time this domino effect trickles down to the one-man band, painter and decorator on the bottom rung of the project ladder, he can't afford the materials required to do the job. And worse still, he's unable to feed his wife and family, pay his mortgage, put diesel in his car. A seemingly minor glitch at the very top of the project becomes a company-killing catastrophe at the bottom. And that's just when payment is delayed. What about when it's not forthcoming at all? What about when one of the cards propping up the house fails and folds? When it's a mid-ranking contractor or subby that succumbs, it can have a significant impact upon those companies below them in the pecking order. But when it's a major contractor, a Carillion or an ISG, for example, it can bring the entire house of cards crashing down. Those near the top will take a damaging fall. Those at the bottom will be buried. At its strongest, The demolition and construction industry is like the Great Pyramid of Giza, resilient even if it is built on shifting sands. But at its weakest, the industry pyramid is a gigantic game of Jenga. And if one piece is removed, the whole thing comes crashing down.